utpāda-sthiti-bhaṅgānām asiddher nāsti saṃskṛtam saṃskṛtasyāprasiddhau kathaṃ setsyaty saṃskṛtam.
Utpāda-sthiti-bhaṅgānām asiddher nāsti saṃskṛtam saṃskṛtasyāprasiddhau kathaṃ setsyaty saṃskṛtam. MMK chapter 7 verse 33, the penultimate verse of the chapter. Through non-establishment of going up, staying still, cessation, there is no doing. And where doing is not substantiated, how will non-doing be established? So this is a very interesting verse. Very interesting to me because it has the words saṃskṛta and asaṃskṛta. We had them at the beginning of the chapter, and now we're revisiting them at the end. And that's been my interest for many years. What did Master Dogen mean when he described Zazen as mui, from the Chinese wu-wei, non-doing, without doing, which comes from the Sanskrit asaṃskṛta, which generally, if it's an adjective, if you look up in the Sanskrit dictionary, it says MFN, masculine, feminine, neuter. So that's something which agrees. If you say like nāgārjuna, asaṃskṛtam, it means nirvana is not saṃskṛted. So it's a past participle of saṃskṛt. So saṃskṛt means to, checking in the dictionary, to put together, to form well. So the sam means together. So saṃskṛt, to make together, to put together, to form well, to join together, to compose. So compose fits because sam, and the pose suggests some kind of action. The dictionary also says to accumulate, and it gives papani saṃskṛt, to add evil to evil. So that's important, that possibility. And it says to prepare, to make ready, to dress, to cook food, to form or arrange according to sacred precept, to concentrate, consecrate, hallow, to adorn, to embellish. So asaṃskṛta as an adjective suggests something which is not composed, and for me not contrived fits well, because in the Alexander work, to form or to arrange one's posture is somehow to contrive the right posture. To me it has that kind of meaning. To adorn, to embellish. So asaṃskṛta has a sense of being raw, rude, not adorned, not embellished. In that sense, like it says in Chinese, nyōze so form as it is, form which is unadorned, unembellished. But what's really interesting, if you're interested in how to sit, is how to sit, which is in a way which is in such a way that, as in 26:11, avidyayam nirudayam saṃskṛtānam asambhavaha, in the cessation of ignorance, there is a non-coming into being of samskaras. So samskaras is the plural masculine noun from saṃskṛt. So contrivances, doings, confections, constructs, that kind of meaning. But that's really important, that verse. And this verse is really a precursor to that very important verse. Although it doesn't seem like it on the surface, but it is if you dig deep into it, because it relates to saṃskṛta and asaṃskṛta. So, for some reason, in the conventional Buddhist wisdom is to translate, because nirvana is asaṃskṛta, people describe nirvana as the unconditioned. So they call samskaras conditioned things, and nirvana is asaṃskṛta, unconditioned. But that's rubbish, because the whole point of nirvana is empty. That's how Nāgārjuna explains it. So what is empty is conditioned. It's dependently arisen from pratyaya, which means causes or conditions. So what's conditioned is real. What's conditioned is empty or dependently arisen. So nirvana is conditioned. To identify nirvana as the unconditioned and things as conditioned is to get it totally the wrong way round. It's laughable, really. You can either laugh or cry. So here's Kalupahana. With the non-establishment of arising, duration and destruction, the conditioned does not exist. With the non-establishment of the conditioned, how could there be the unconditioned? Okay. In fact, Garfield, in that sense, does a better job of translating Saṃskṛta, because he says compounded. Now, compounded is a closer to the literal translation of the Sanskrit Saṃskṛta. Since arising, ceasing and abiding are not established, there are no compounded things. If all compounded things are unestablished, how could the uncompounded be established? But then Siddhari and Katsura, 2013, revert back to conditioned. Since origination, duration and cessation are not established, there is nothing that is conditioned. And in the absence of the establishment of the conditioned, what unconditioned thing will be established? So the first thing for us to establish, let's use that word in a good meaning of establish. The first thing to establish is what Nāgārjuna meant by saṃskṛta and asaṃskṛta. And as a masculine, feminine or neuter adjective, use that adjectively. There isn't really such a thing as an adjective in Sanskrit, but when the past participle is used to qualify something like nirvānam, that's nominative singular neuter, asaṃskṛtam, then that's describing nirvana as uncontrived, not confected. In other words, free of doing in Alexander terms, not something not done. But you also look in the dictionary and it will say N standing for neuter, and that means saṃskṛta as a noun. It's like if you look at krita, it means done or made, but MFN, it'll say krita, done, made, achieved. If you look at krita as a noun, krita N, it'll say action, deed, doing. So in the same way, saṃskṛta as a neuter noun means it's given as making ready. So making ready. So it's translated as an ing, a gerund. It's a past participle. As an adjective, used as an adjective, it's a past participle. But as a noun, it can mean doing something, you see, making ready, it's given as. So, in that case, we can translate saṃskṛtam nāsti as there is no contriving, or, at the risk of incurring people's wrath, imposing my Alexander agenda on things, which I have done, there is no doing. Saṃskṛtam nāsti. There is no doing. Okay, now it starts getting interesting, because we're talking about the possibility of doing or non-doing. That is something of interest to practitioners. If we follow the three translations I've just quoted, it's purely an ontological discussion. See, the condition does not exist. How could there be the unconditioned? How could there be the conditioned, the unconditioned? What does Garfield say again? There are no compounded things. Originally, it's actually singular, but he's working from the Tibetan. there are no compounded things. How could the uncompounded be established? Okay, and listen to, it's just fortunately just a short comment, so I'll read it out. That is, arising, abiding, and ceasing are not entities at all. They are mere relations. Since these fundamental attributes of dependently arisen phenomena are empty of inherent existence, what could have inherent existence? There is the essence of an ontological question. What could have inherent existence? That's what Garfield's interested in. He wants to bring the discussion back to what he knows about, what he understands, which is this ontological question of existence or non-existence. So that's the question for him. What could have inherent existence? Now, the question that interests a Zazen practitioner is kathaṃ setsyaty asaṃskṛtam. Asaṃskṛtam, non-doing, not contriving, non-doing. Kathaṃ, how, setsyaty, third person singular future of setsu, to establish. How will non-doing be established? And that is the bloody question for all of us. I might paint a picture sometimes of being living the life of Riley here, in a beautiful sunny day again today. You can see the sunlight there on the trees, all the shadows and the brightness. But unfortunately, I've been out this morning. Somebody's out with a chainsaw cutting down those trees. And it's always quite humbling. How am I going to cope with that stimulus? Basically, just depending on how close it is and how loud it is, I found over the years, basically I've got two choices, which is to just press on regardless, as if I was like playing rugby or something. Once Frederick the builder, when I was complaining about the sound of, when my neighbour used to have 6 cockerels, it used to drive me crazy. He said, put a cement dans les oreilles, put a little bit of cement in your ears, it's kind of ribbing me like a rugby player would. You stop being such a big girl's blouse, just put a bit of cement in your ears. And that sort of helps you to stop being such a drama queen about it. So that's one response, is just to, tough it out and just carry on. Which I might be able to do doing physical work, but if I'm having to think about something or practice Zazen, that doesn't work. So another thing I found, when a few years ago my neighbour was having an extension built on his house, and every stone was being cut by a massive angle grinder, again by Frederick the builder. It was incredibly loud, great big petrol-driven angle grinder. It was using morning and afternoon. So I realised there was no point me fighting against that. So I just hid myself away, listen to golden oldies or whatever, or just, put headphones on. But then I'd be there every morning before Frederick came, being French, that he would take an hour and a half or 2 hours off for lunch without fail, and then he would finish, 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening. So I just, didn't fight it whatsoever there, and it was a very, very peaceful summer. It gave me a kind of rhythm, a routine, and when the noise stopped, you would enjoy the silence even more. So, but if that makes it sound like I've got everything sussed, absolutely not. Yesterday, my tax bill came for the, they call it taxe d'habitation, for living tax you have to stay for living here, then property tax you have to pay, even for a very small place like this. It's not nothing. And then I think I might have had a leak, so my water bills are going to be enormous. So the question is, kathaṃ setsyaty saṃskṛtam. So everybody watching this who's got an interest in what the Buddha taught will face that question in practice, and nobody, not if you sacrifice everything and devote yourself to the life of a monk, like for example Ananda Jyoti Bhikkhu in Thailand, the nearest thing I know to being a real true monk, devoted to clarifying the ancient Buddhist texts, he's always got visa problems. It's totally an ongoing question for everybody. We're all in the same boat. Even the Buddha must have asked that question. How will non-doing be established? Even if he got it sorted out for himself, he had the question, how to see. What I'm suggesting is this the word established here is used in an empty sense, because usually the establishment, which is siddhi, as in the first pada, in the second pada, asiddher, is ablative of asiddhi, and that's siddhi means establishment. So asiddher means through non-establishment. Then in the third pada we've got aprasiddhau, which is locative of aprasiddhi, and prasiddhi is siddhi, establishment, with pra in front, which is emphatic. So I translate it as substantiation. Aprasiddhi, non-substantiation, and aprasiddhau, locative, in non-substantiation, in insubstantiation, in establishment, in non-establishment, sorry. So on the face of it, those words siddhi, prasiddhi, and the verbal root setsu they mean establishment, substantiation, to establish. They belong to the opponent's lexicon. But in the same way that bhava can mean an existent thing, a non-empty thing, bhava can also mean a living being, which is the ultimate empty thing if it's living. In the same way, setsu can mean to establish as a non-empty thing. See, setsu means establish as a real thing, establish really. And in a non-empty conception, it means you establish it as a non-empty thing. But I think Nāgārjuna is using the word ambiguously here. So you can say, if it means to establish really, that means to establish as what is empty. And that's the question below the surface as I read it. Kathaṃ setsyaty saṃskṛtam. How will non-doing be established? And I think that was the question the Buddha set out with at the beginning of his teaching career. That's the essential teaching that he wanted to teach, was the teaching of non-doing, asaṃskṛtam. The other way of reading it is to read asaṃskṛtam as the uncontrived, in which case it means nirvana. So the question is, how will nirvana be established? And then it would be a rhetorical question, because nirvana is empty. How can you nail down nirvana? How can you nail down nirvana? That would be, again, it would be a rhetorical question, but it would still suggest something in practice. It would suggest, surrender, like thy will be done. How can I nail down nirvana? It's beyond me. So it would still have a kind of practical impact as a rhetorical question. But I don't think it is a rhetorical question. I think it's an open question that expresses the question we all ask. When the chainsaws are going off, when a tax bill comes in, if you've got children, when they've got needs that need attending to, how will non-doing be established? When you've got to go out and earn a crust somehow, or spin out your savings if you're retired. In that difficult situation, how will non-doing be established? So from the English, through non-establishment, asiddher, ablative of asiddhi, thanks to non-establishment, through non-establishment, of, genitive plural, genitive plural ending is ānām, of going up, utpāda, staying still, sthiti-bhaṅgānām, from bhanga, cessation. So through non-establishment of going up, staying still, cessation, utpāda-sthiti-bhaṅgānām, asiddher, nāsti saṃskṛtam. So nāsti is na plus asti, there is not, asti is there is, na not, saṃskṛtam, the conditioned, if you follow Kalpahana and Siddharis and Katsara, the compounded or compounded things, if you follow Garfield. But I'm saying there is no contriving, there is no doing. Why is there no doing? Through non-establishment of going up, staying still, and cessation. So through non-establishment, you can understand it in two ways. You can say going up, staying still, and cessation are not established as non-empty things. So they're empty. So it means thanks to the emptiness of going up, staying still, and cessation. But on a deeper level, it can mean this. When you've got the prefix a, it can mean non, in the sense of hibutsu, as I keep referring back to. Hibutsu means a non-Buddha, which means a real Buddha, but not what you thought a Buddha would be like. So non-establishment could mean real establishment, but not like what the opponent thinks. The opponent thinks going up is something that you can separate off and say that is going up. The empty conception of going up is there is no going up as a thing unto itself. If you sit in lotus and go up, that going up is not caused by the self. It's not caused by God. It's not caused by the other. It's not caused by God as anything other. You might thank God for it in the sense of it's a happening that nobody can do themselves or via the other. It's not a combination of both self and other. But it's not caused. So going up is dependently arisen. It's dependently arisen on food and drink, the sunshine, gravity, true teaching. So going up, maybe it can be established, but it's not the establishment you thought before was establishment. Not the establishment I thought before when I came back to study the Alexander technique, thinking I was going to get my dirty paws on it, to use Nelly Benall's words. So non-establishment is establishment of going up, but not by getting your dirty paws on it, more like taking your dirty paws off it. And so it's established in a way that you weren't expecting it to be established. I like that better, actually. Through non-establishment of going up, staying still, and cessation. So what does it mean to establish staying still? It means to establish going up. That's Alexander's. That's what Alexander pointed us towards. True going up. Establishment of true going up, which is staying still. Direction is the truest form of inhibition. And another word for inhibition is staying still or cessation. Be still and know that. Be still and know what? Be still and know what? What you know from being still. I think that you could say you can know that it's the backward step is not getting something. It's not grasping something. It's more letting go of something. I was recommending somebody to read earlier this week a an article that's reproduced on my website, the teaching of F.M. Alexander, the 1965 memorial lecture given by Marjory Barlow to the Society of Teachers of the Alexander Technique. And in that lecture, she describes how F.M. made his discovery for himself by tracing the cause of the problem further and further back. It's always further back than what you think. And so the backward step is like that. It's not a backward step towards something. It's a backward step going back and realizing that's still kind of end gaining or doing. And so going back. So that non-doing is like that. It's recognizing, no, that is doing, that is end gaining. And so you step back from it. And I think that's how Nāgārjuna has suggested cessation is. The real meaning of cessation is like that. It's not that we cease something. It's not that there's a thing that we have to cease. It's rather that we have to cease trying to cease things. So it's giving up. It's not positively going forward and destroying something. If there's any destruction that's involved, it's destruction of that tendency to want to get your dirty paws on it, to want to go out and stop it. So it's stopping that, if that makes sense. So what Nāgārjuna's actually working towards in this verse is establishment of non-doing, if you understand it like that. He's using these words, these Sanskrit verses he's composed in 32 syllables, 4 padas of 8 syllables each. That have got this definite meter that have kind of where the teaching is distilled for us, so that it wouldn't be forgotten over the centuries, which it hasn't. So we can study it now. Except what hasn't been maintained over the centuries is understanding of what he was really talking about. Because, again, Garfield, what could have inherent existence? It's an ontological question. It's a question about existence. It's not a practical question about how to practice non-doing. And so there is some Katzra comment. The conditioned would have to undergo origination, duration and cessation. Since none of these 3 characteristics can be made sense of, we must conclude that the conditioned does not exist. But according to Nāgārjuna, we should not conclude from this argument that what is ultimately real must be conditioned. For we could say that something is unconditioned only if we could explain how something could be conditioned. And it has been the gist of this chapter that we cannot do that. So the gist of this chapter, Sideris and Katzra say in their prize-winning translation, is that we could say that something is unconditioned only if we could explain how something could be conditioned. And it has been the gist of this chapter that we cannot do that. We cannot explain that. I would humbly suggest that that is a pile of bullshit. The gist of the chapter is about practice. It's about zazen. It's about going up, staying still, and cessation, not as an ontological matter, as the most practical matter there is. So that's why he asks in the second line, where doing is not substantiated. Literally, where or in non-substantiation, asaṃskṛtam, of doing, of contriving, saṃskṛtasya, that's genitive of saṃskṛta. So in non-substantiation of doing, saṃskṛtasyāprasiddhau cha. Cha is and. So saṃskṛtasyāprasiddhau cha, and where doing is not substantiated. So that resonates with avidyayam nirudayam. Nirudayam, locative of niruddha, having been stopped. Avidyayam, locative of avidyaya, ignorance. So ignorance having been stopped, where ignorance has been stopped. So where doing is not substantiated, saṃskṛtasyāprasiddhau, where ignorance has been stopped. Avidyayam, niruddhayam, those phrases might mean exactly the same thing. So where doing is substantiated, I might be able to show that very easily. Ironically enough, whenever I demonstrate this substantiation of doing, even though it's not usually conducive to free breathing, to sit in this kind of forced way, it actually often seems to stimulate my respiratory system into action. And I think the mechanism behind that is when I demonstrate the wrong thing, it's very liberating. It can be very liberating, because it totally frees you from trying to be right. And in fact, this is what Marjory used to recommend. If you think you're doing something wrong, if you're worried about you might be doing something wrong, well, go ahead and do it, as hard as ever you like, and then stop. See, the dangerous thing is to be doing the wrong thing without knowing it. The unconsciousness is what gets us into trouble. Saṃskṛtasyāprasiddhau cha, and where doing is not substantiated. The question, kathaṃ setsyaty saṃskṛtam, how will non-doing be established? I think that's what it means. I really do. But I'm sure that translation will go down like a lead balloon with people who think that saṃskṛtam means the conditioned things, and asaṃskṛtam describes nirvana as the unconditioned or the uncompounded. So as a halfway house, I'll offer another translation. On the grounds of non-establishment, asiddher, of going up, staying still, cessation, utpāda-sthiti-bhaṅgānām, there is no contriving, nāsti saṃskṛtam. And where contriving is not substantiated, saṃskṛtasyāprasiddhau cha, how will the uncontrived be established? Kathaṃ setsyaty saṃskṛtam. This verse is so important. Once more, I very much doubt I've gotten anywhere near to doing it justice, but I do feel confident when I look at previous translations, especially the one that's won prizes, Siddharis and Katsura, powers that be in Tibet deemed that was worthy of winning a prize. I'm sure that I've opened something up which wasn't open, hasn't been opened up by translations hitherto that have thought Nāgārjuna was asking a rhetorical, ontological question. Kathaṃ setsyaty saṃskṛtam. How will non-doing be established? It's the same question that F.M. Alexander asked. And with a view to establishing the non-doing, which is the core principle of Alexander's work, people were keen on setting up this society of teachers of the Alexander technique. And F.M. Alexander didn't think it would work, and nor did Marjory Barlow. Apparently they kept having these false starts where they would set up something and FM would break out the champagne, you know, and they'd come down the next morning and say, no, I can't go through with it. So truly to establish the teaching, you can't do it by setting up a new sect, a new organisation, a new institution, a new society with articles of constitution and all the rest of it. I hesitate to say what the answer to the question might be, because it's really asking a question for everybody to explore for themselves. Kathaṃ setsyaty saṃskṛtam. How will non-doing, how will the practice, the act of non-doing be established? What I'm doing now is part of that effort, even though I don't know what the hell I'm doing to some extent. 2 years ago, we moved after 20 years living in a house in Aylesbury, where I moved to Aylesbury because that's where the Alexander training course was, where I wanted to train. After living there for 20 years, my younger son got a place to study medicine at the University of East Anglia. So he up sticks to Norwich so that he could, my wife could support him through the 5 years of medical school training. And when we moved there, it was a very unsettling period, actually. Very, very unsettling, because my wife didn't really want to move. And so it was a bit of a chaotic and stressful time. So when we arrived in Norwich, there was this sort of bit of a dilapidated conservatory where I took refuge, and I would sit on top of my Alexander teaching table, and I really liked the space. You know, I opened the conservatory sliding doors, and it was just a really nice space. And so as I sat there practicing Zazen, looking out, I just saw there was a space where I could build a concrete base, and I didn't even know what kind of building I was going to build there. But I've got quite good at mixing concrete over the years of being in France and so on. Watching my friend John Ralph, you know, sort of taught me how to be a builder in some ways, imitating him. So I got a second-hand cement mixer off Gumtree, and set about building this base that you could have landed a helicopter on by the time I'd finished it. It was a hell of a thing, but you know, I got a whacker down to compact all the gravel before I started, and I split it into 3 sections and concrete them one by one. So I had this, I don't know, about 12 metres long base there, and so I go, you know, do a good day's work building this concrete base, and I go back in the conservatory and sit and thinking, well, you know, didn't even know what the hell I was doing really. My wife was worried about what kind of a mess I was making of everything, but I just sort of trusted that, keep working at it, and you know, something good will come of it. But I just wanted to make a base, and somehow it was a metaphor for. I didn't really know what it was a base for, but I just wanted to make one hell of a strong base, and in a sense, that's what I'm doing with this. It's like opening something up, like opening the ground, and making a base that somebody's going to build on. And it's almost like I haven't got a master plan. I just practice Zazen. So building that base is like a metaphor for what I'm doing here. I just started doing these videos when I was back in Norwich, actually, because I just wanted to start somewhere, and that's how I do it. I start and I practice Zazen and look at how things are going and just carry on. So how will non-doing be established? Not by who's that? Dr. Evil, Mike Myers' Dr. Evil character. Not by some master plan, to establish non-doing. Not as far as it seems to me, anyway. I feel more like I'm a puppet that's being guided by I don't know what to build a base, and that is a basic, perhaps the basic question. Kathaṃ setsyaty saṃskṛtam. Okay? So it definitely does not really mean how could there be the unconditioned as per Kalupahana. It does not mean how could the uncompounded be established. How could the uncompounded be established as per Garfield. And it doesn't mean what unconditioned thing will be established as per Siddheris and Katsara. See, kathaṃ doesn't mean what, it means how. So again, with their agenda, trying to understand it according to their agenda, they've failed to actually look at what the original Sanskrit word was, kathaṃ, how. The question is, kathaṃ setsyaty saṃskṛtam. How kathaṃ will be established, setsyaty, asaṃskṛtam, non-doing, non-contriving, or, if you prefer, the uncontrived. But I think non-doing is what it really means. How will non-doing be established?
utpāda-sthiti-bhaṅgānām asiddher nāsti saṃskṛtam saṃskṛtasyāprasiddhau kathaṃ setsyaty saṃskṛtam.